I always say, people say, who's the best? I go, well, what do you mean? The best at what? The best what? The best wrestler? Best in ring? Best entrance? Best character? Best champion? Best win-loss record? Best what? And so something I was thinking about is the best worker, right? Best worker. And by worker, I mean somebody that is able to utilize the business to its fullest extent to benefit themselves. Along the way, do good things for wrestling. The conversation has to be brought up. Jeff Jarrett may very well be the best worker that the industry has ever known. Look at Jeff Jarrett, okay? Look at this guy's career. And these are just the bullet points. I'm going to miss something. But Jeff Jarrett is born into wrestling, right? He's the son of one of the great wrestling promoters of all time, Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler were able to keep the Memphis territory open and profitable long past many other territories were open and profitable. But Jeff Jarrett comes from that world. So he has a very unique perspective on wrestling and how it works. Jeff Jarrett got to see superstars come and go. He got to see things in a locker room from the perspective of the superstars, but he got to see things in the conversations with his father from the perspective of a promoter. Jeff Jarrett in 1993 shows up in WWE, comes from Memphis. He had been working for, 6 or 7 years in Memphis with his father, and he had done some stuff in Japan. He had done some stuff over here, whatever. He comes to the WWE, full gimmick, vignettes. They give him the whole treatment. Double J, Jeff, Jarre, double T. That's double J. Jeff Jarrett. And he's come to the WWE as a villain. He is going to be a country music superstar. He's the world's greatest singer, the world's greatest wrestler, and the world's greatest entertainer. And he has declared that he is using the WWE as a stepping stone to become a big hit in the world of Nashville country music. So right away, he comes in and the carpet's rolled out for him, right? This is the time when a strong gimmick was what you needed to get over in the WWE, and he came in with a strong gimmick. And after less than 2 years in the WWE, he is the Intercontinental Champion. Now, the Intercontinental Championship, especially in 1994, 1995, is an elite group of superstars. This is when the Intercontinental title was on its run of the workers, the best in-ring competitors, the work rate championship. This is when it was going from Mr. Perfect to Bret the Hitman Hart to Roddy Piper to Shawn Michaels and so on and so forth. So Jeff Jarrett is now in this elite group. He has stepped out of the shadow of whatever his father had built. He has got a giant gimmick in the WWE. He is a name amongst wrestling fans everywhere, and he is in that elite group of Intercontinental Champions in the early to mid-90s. But right in the middle of a storyline, at In Your House 2, he goes out, he sings his song With My Baby Tonight, and he has, to me, still one of Shawn Michaels' greatest matches of Shawn Michaels' career for the Intercontinental Championship and loses the title to Shawn Michaels. Now, this is being all built up for the big reveal to be that his assistant, the roadie, was actually the one singing the vocals on the country song that he performed earlier in the night. But we didn't get the payoff because Jeff Jarrett walked out on the company. And he still, whether it was financial or creative, just as we were getting ready to start a massive story, which maybe would have been seen Jeff Jarrett on the decline. You know, now that Jeff Jarrett's lost the Intercontinental Championship, he's going to start losing matches to the roadie. Maybe not. Jeff Jarrett disappears from the WWE, comes back several months later to start working with Ahmed Johnson, but right away after that, the fact that he was even brought back after disappearing is like, all right, well, we'll bring him back. He only stays for a minute, though, because then he splits again. Because he's not going to sit here and lose over and over again to Ahmed Johnson. He wants to keep himself and his status hot. So he goes to WCW. And when he gets to WCW, what's one of the first things that he does? He becomes a horseman. So Jeff Jarrett goes from being a promoter's kid to being elevated in the WWE as having this great gimmick, to being elevated yet again as being an early to mid-90s Intercontinental Champion. Walks out, goes to WCW. What's the most elite group in the history of Crockett Promotions, which became WCW? The Four Horsemen. Jeff Jarrett now gets that stone on his Thanos glove. He is now also a former horseman. He goes in there, he becomes a member of the Four Horsemen. He signs a year deal with WCW, goes through his year, out the door. Leaves WCW again. Now he comes back to WWE. Not only is he a former Intercontinental Champion, a former horseman, but he's a hot free agent in the middle of the Monday Night Wars. Jeff Jarrett just got elevated again. Jeff Jarrett shows up, and he cuts a promo as soon as he gets there. And he cuts a promo, and who's the first person he goes after? The hottest guy in the industry, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Jeff Jarrett goes after Stone Cold and positions himself as, I'm going to be the guy that Stone Cold has to deal with. I'm going to put myself in that position. Stone Cold apparently behind the scenes says, I'm not working with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett goes, fine, I guess I'm not going to be the WWE champion right now. So what does he do? Somehow, he attaches himself to the NWA championship, and Jim Cornette and Jeff Jarrett are able to get the NWA championship recognized in the WWE. Jeff Jarrett is now a world champion. He is the NWA world champion on WWE television. He was never going to be the WWE champion at that time, so he becomes a world champion for another organization, but he's still a world champion on WWE TV. So what does he do? He goes, okay, cuts his hair short, goes in there with China, gets back in the Intercontinental Championship title picture. Jeff Jarrett becomes synonymous with that IC title for about a year there in the late 90s. And what does he do? Quietly lets his contract run out. And again, WWE was sleeping behind the wheel, but Jeff Jarrett, he's a promoter's son. He's a worker's worker. He knows what he's doing. He is the current Intercontinental Champion. He's got a big good housekeeping match with China coming up at a pay-per-view. His contract expires the day before the pay-per-view. So what does he do? He goes, hey, I'm here. I'm here to do the pay-per-view. I want you guys to know I'm not under contract. So I'm ready to not wrestle, take all my stuff, including the title, and just go right home. I will not go to the ring tonight, and there's nothing you can do about that. But what you could do is, all the money that you owe me, everything, all the money that I'm owed for doing shows, all the checks that I'm owed for matches that I haven't gotten yet, I'd like them all today. I'd like them all right now in my hand before I go to the ring. And you can give me that money that you owe me, and I will go to the ring, and I will be a professional. Or you can not give me the money. I'll go home right now. It's up to you. Holds up the WWE for the money that he's owed. What choice do they have? The WWE gives him all the cash. He goes in there. He acts like a professional. He goes home. He goes to WCW. What does he do when he gets to WCW? Elevated yet again. Becomes the champion of the world. Jeff Jarrett is synonymous with the WCW World Championship for that whole last run of WCW. And when WCW goes out of business, maybe Vince McMahon is in character, and maybe he's still salty about the way Jeff Jarrett handled the situation with his contract running out before the Good Housekeeping match. Maybe it's a little bit of both. But on the last episode of Nitro that's being simulcast on Monday Night Raw, Vince McMahon says G-O-O-N-N-E, gone. He fires Jeff Jarrett without even seeing him. He fires him via satellite on national television. Jeff Jarrett still to this day says, I thought it was just, Vince doing some character work, right? But what Jeff sees as he's watching and as time goes on, he's collecting his money from Turner as he should. He's a worker's worker. And he sees all this happening, right? He sees WCW stars starting to show up to WWE. Number one, he knows he's already been, whether it was in character or not, the chairman's buried him on television. G-O-O-N-N-E, whatever he spelled it, gone. And then he's watching WCW superstars show up on Monday Night Raw, and they're not doing very well. They're not super successful. So what does Jeff Jarrett do? Jeff Jarrett does not wait for WWE to call him. No, Jeff Jarrett gets with his dad and says, let's start our own promotion. And boom, NWA TNA is born. It started by Jeff Jarrett and Jerry Jarrett. What's wild about this story is about 4 to 5 months into the company even existing, they find a buyer. They're able to sell NWA TNA to Panda Energy less than 6 months after creating the company. This is now going to be something that I think Jeff Jarrett learns from. That there's a way to create a wrestling company and make money off of it without actually making money off the wrestling company, as wild as that sounds. He's also dabbling outside of NWA TNA. He starts dabbling in AAA. He starts dabbling overseas, just seeing what's going on over here. Doing some big spots here and there, making sure his name stays out there. He realizes that he's losing power in that promotion. Years after years have gone by. And that maybe doesn't have the status that he once had in TNA. So what does he do? He takes a step away and starts another wrestling promotion. He starts something called Global Force Wrestling. And somehow, without ever having a TV deal, only working a few shows overseas, he starts making deals. He creates titles, and he has superstars that represent this brand that doesn't run shows, and he somehow makes deals with companies like New Japan and NWA TNA itself, TNA Impact Wrestling, and his brand that he's created that doesn't have a show is represented on those shows. While he's doing that, he goes over to New Japan, and with this partnership that he's founded, he joins the Bullet Club. Early to mid-90s Intercontinental Champion, Horseman, NWA World Champion, WCW World Champion, founder of TNA, founder of Global Force, and now he's in the Bullet Club, the hottest thing in wrestling at the time. And Jeff Jarrett has found himself involved in that. Just as that's starting to peter out, sells his stakes in Global Force or whatever, that's going away. Because the call comes in 2018, and even though he was fired on television, Jeff Jarrett is welcomed back into the WWE family as he goes into the WWE Hall of Fame. And Jeff Jarrett goes into the WWE Hall of Fame, and he's singing With My Baby Tonight, and he's just happy to be back, happy to be home. He's smiling, he's laughing, he's shaking hands with everybody. That leads to Jeff Jarrett coming in as a surprise entrant in the 2019 Royal Rumble, showing up on Raw after the Royal Rumble, having a match with Elias, and getting a job as a producer backstage in WWE. Now, he ends up leaving by 2021. He's gone, and we don't know why, but by 2021, he's out of WWE. And he launches a podcast with Conrad, because that's what you do. It's super popular. It's red hot. And this is what brings us to this year. All of that only leads us to 2022. And in 2022, Jeff Jarrett has had one of the best years that any worker in wrestling could ever have. Listen to what 2022 looks like for Jeff Jarrett. It starts with the fact that Game Changer Wrestling, GCW, the hottest, especially at the time, independent wrestling organization in the United States, sells out the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. That's not something any independent promotion is doing. And because they sold out that building, for the first time, they're able to get this show not just on streaming pay-per-view, but on legitimate cable pay-per-view. Who finds their way onto that show but Jeff Jarrett? Not only does Jeff Jarrett find his way onto that show, he finds his way into a match with one of the hottest homegrown talents that GCW has in Effie. and he wins. He beats Effie. You assume, I guess, Jeff Jarrett's in it for the long haul. But the next thing we know, we turn around, and Jeff Jarrett is working with the NWA, and he's like the special referee for an NWA championship match. And we go, oh, I'll bet he'll be back to GCW pretty soon then. And that's not the case. Because in May, it's revealed that he's working for the WWE backstage again, that Jeff Jarrett is back, and this time he's running live events for the WWE. And just as you're saying, I can't believe it, that can't be true, he's on WWE television. And come July of this year, Jeff Jarrett has one of the most insane weekends anybody's ever had. Nashville becomes a hotbed for professional wrestling. And on Saturday night, Jeff Jarrett is the special guest referee in the Usos Tag Team Championship title defense against the Street Profits. One night later, on Sunday, he goes across the street and he's in a tag team match with Jay Lethal as they're competing in Ric Flair's retirement match, independent from the WWE. He's working as a referee in a title match at SummerSlam, and the next night is working Ric Flair's official retirement match. Things start to quiet down. We find out Jeff Jarrett may have stepped away from the WWE, and we get to November of this year, and we turn on AEW Dynamite. And Jeff Jarrett shows up in AEW and smashes a guitar over Darby Allin's head. After everything we just said, in 2022 alone, GCW, NWA, WWE, SummerSlam, Flair's last match, AEW. If that doesn't make Jeff Jarrett the greatest worker of all time, I don't know what will.